Hey everybody, welcome to Doing Stuff with Dave. Today I'm going to be building an enclosure for my Prusa 3D mini printer. When the filament heats up, it gives off VOCs, which obviously I don't want to be breathing, so it's going to include a filtration system to take that out of the air. So let's get started. I'll be using MDF, clear PET plastic, a fan, and an activated charcoal filter. I'll be 3D printing a housing for the filter, and the enclosure itself will be an 18-inch cube. Alright, I've got all my scrap MDF set up over here. I'm going to set the table saw to a 2-inch width. All these pieces are going to be 2 inches wide, and then I'll come back and cut them to their respective lengths. I've got 4 or 5 different lengths that I need.
Luke, if you're out there, I am your father.
Okay, so I've got 20 total pieces. I've got 4 different sizes here. The largest quantity of any one size is 8 pieces at 18 1/4. So I put them all on the bed of the chop saw, lined them all up. I've got my cut line there. I've lined the blade up with that, used my clamp, and that will ensure that these pieces are all the same size. If I had more than I could fit on here, I would have set up a stop on one end so that I could ensure that all the pieces came out the same length. I consulted my drawing in SketchUp to make sure that I was laying out the parts correctly, and then I began gluing them up. Does this mean you're going to help me put it together? No? If I give you some food? Okay. This phase of the assembly definitely would have benefited from another pair of hands or paws, but it went okay, just took a little longer than it would have otherwise. So the PET is 16 by 20. The 16-inch dimension works perfectly. So what I'm going to do is cut them all to 16 by 16, and I can just use the pieces themselves to trace off where my cuts are going to be, and then I'll take a straight edge and an X-Acto knife and cut everything down to size. I have a piece of the PET setting on top of the door. I'm going to drill pilot holes into the MDF, and then I'm going to attach that piece. Okay, so there's the door. Thanks to time-lapse, I can screw things up faster than I ever could before. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to attach the PET to the rest of the enclosure, except for the side where all the penetrations are going to be for plugs and the vent and things of that nature. The 2 halves of my filter housing have finished printing, and the way this is going to work is the filter itself will be on the inside of the enclosure, the fan will be on the outside. So there's holes here that correspond with the mounting holes on the fan, and of course the opening for the fan itself. So what happens is the filter fits in like this. This is just a friction fit piece to hold everything in place. This will be on the inside, this will be on the outside. And then what I've also done is I've made markings for where all the openings need to be. So I've got my fan opening, I've got the mounting holes, I've got an opening here for the filament to pass through and for the power. I'm probably going to use Forstner bits for these 2, just a regular drill bit for these. And I don't have a Forstner bit big enough for that, so I may use a Dremel, possibly I have a hole saw that's big enough. I'll have to figure that out when I go out to the workshop. All right, so I got my Forstner bits out. I'm going to start with the smallest hole and see how the plastic responds to the Forstner bit. I could do this on a test piece first, but I'm confident enough that this will be fine that I'm just going to go for it. Famous last words. As we're about to see, I should have tested this on a scrap piece first. All right, well, it didn't crack it, which was my worry, but from the speed, it did start to melt the plastic. So I'm gonna get a pair of snips and trim the rest of that piece out of there. So what was happening there is as the Forstner bit was cutting through, it was sort of healing itself from the heat that was building up, so I gotta trim that piece out of there. So I think for these other ones, for this one and this one, I may try the Dremel with a cutting bit. For these smaller ones, I'm just gonna use a regular drill bit and they'll be fine. I have all the parts for the fan staged, and I'm gonna go ahead and install that next. I forgot to install the grill for the fan at this stage, but when I did the final setup, I corrected that. All right, the fan is in place. All that's left to do now is take it over to the printer and get everything set up. I've got the printer set up and I'm doing a few calibration tests just to see if I can smell any of the VOCs from the PLA, and at this point I don't smell anything. So I let the printer run for another 20 minutes or so and I didn't smell anything, so I'm satisfied that it's working properly. I'm going to post links below to the clear PET plastic I used for the windows, the fan, the filter cartridge, in case anybody wants to build one of these on their own. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.